Hi friends and not yet friends. Welcome back to my little corner of the internet. Today we're going to be talking about how I heal my tattoos. I recently unbutton this. I recently got this gorgeous bat hat tattoo by the lovely Black Friday Tattoo. I will leave a link to her Instagram in the description box so you can go give her a follow if you like. And I filmed the entire healing process and how I take care of it from beginning to end. Now, before we start, I know healing tattoos is a very personal thing. Everyone has their own techniques. Every artist recommends something slightly different, and people also like to fight about what the best technique is and what the best ointment is and what the best whatever is. That is not what I'm here to do, and I also will not be fighting with people who try to start some shit because I don't care. This is what I'm doing. This is what works for me. This is the routine I've come up with for myself, and it hasn't failed me thus far. My credentials for talking about this is that I have been getting tattoos for almost 10 years now. So my first good handful of tattoos I actually got before Saniderm or Second Skin was really, really big and widely used. I was actually getting tattooed when those puppy pad things, I don't even remember the brand name, were the big thing to heal your tattoos, and people were recommending Bepanthen, and all you could get was it wrapped up in cling film to go home. Those were my first couple of tattoo experiences. I've tried dry healing, I've used Bepanthen, I've used Vaseline, I've used hustle butter, I've used straight coconut oil. You name it, I've probably smeared it on my skin at this point, really. So I've seen and personally used and experienced different ointments and healing routines and techniques, and this is just kind of what works for me. And this routine that you're about to see is just kind of what I've pieced together over the last couple of years, and it's what works for me right now. And who knows, maybe it'll look completely different 2 or 3 years down the line, who knows. But for now, this is my tattoo healing routine. Let's actually get into it now. So at my tattoo appointment, when we're all done and wrapping things up, I've started asking for my tattoo to just be put in regular cling wrap, no Saniderm, no Second Skin, no nothing. And I will leave the cling film on. It usually takes me about a half hour to an hour to get home from whichever studio I was at. And then I'll usually eat something as soon as I get home, and then immediately hop into the shower. So by the time I take the cling film off, my tattoo has had an hour, 2.5, sometimes 3-ish if I'm feeling really sluggish, to just kind of bleed out a little more and let go of all that extra gunk and plasma and ink that's gonna exit the wound within the first couple of hours. So I just let it do its thing, and when I'm ready to hop in the shower, I just take off the cling wrap and wash all the gunk off my tattoo with nothing but warm water. I don't use any soap. For the surrounding areas, if there's any stuck on stubborn ink, which there usually is, I will use some pH neutral soap, but I don't like putting it on the tattoo. When I get out of the shower, I make sure that my towel or bathrobe doesn't touch the fresh tattoo. I just kind of do my skincare, put lotion on the rest of my body, and while I do that, I just kind of let my tattoo air dry. And if my tattoo is still a little wet after I'm done with all those things, I just take a clean paper towel and gently pat it dry, because now we're going to put on Second Skin. This was a little harder to do on this particular tattoo because of the placement, and I only had like one hand and it was kind of awkward, but we managed. There are some more creases than usual, but it's a hard place, okay? The whole reason I put the Saniderm on myself after a shower is because I really hate those huge accumulations of like fluid gunk that comes out the first day, maybe two, of the tattoo. And by eliminating the very, very first round of gunk that I wash off in the shower, I think that's about like, can't even lie, like 70% of whatever happens to be in an ink sac. If you've ever seen those on TikTok, there's like a whole audio and it haunts my dreams, because to me there is nothing worse than a piece of Saniderm filled with so much bodily fluid that it looks like one of those sensory play mats for babies. I don't know, it's just, I know that's what they're there for, but that's just kind of, I hate it. I hate the thought of it. I just like having the chance to put my Saniderm on with like the least amount of gunk on it. And two, I've also had in the past some reactions to different kinds of Saniderm. I haven't had one with this particular brand I'm using right now, and fingers crossed it stays that way. But yeah, I prefer putting it on after showering. I'll usually leave the second skin on for anywhere from 3 to 5-ish days. It just kind of depends on my mood when I do want to take it off. You can see the progress here of it being a little saucy the first day or two, but it never forms a huge ink sac, like I said, that ends up looking like a sensory playmat for babies. So this time around, I took my second skin off on day 3, and all the liquid at that point had just dried right back up underneath the Saniderm at that point. When I remove my second skin, I usually do so in the shower so I can have it under running water, because that really helps loosen the adhesive, but I couldn't figure out how to actually film this in the shower without getting my camera wet, and I'm not sacrificing my baby for this video, so here's a dry demonstration. Usually some bits around the edge will have already started rolling up just over the course of healing and by like putting on clothes and sleeping and just like being alive as a human. So I will pick at one of those until I can really grab onto the Saniderm, and then I pull upwards and away from the tattoo. I'm not sure if I'm doing a good job at verbally explaining what I do, but I think you can see pretty well in the footage. After this, I did finish taking off the Saniderm in the shower, because the warm water really does make a huge difference in getting it off. Once it's all off, I'll wash my tattoo with warm water and pH neutral soap. If there's a lot of leftover gunk or adhesive, I'll either do a second round with the soap or some kind of unscented shower oil just to help kickstart getting that gunk off. You can see I removed my second skin right when the tattoo was at that crispy shedding stage, so I probably could have waited another day this time around, but I could tell it was getting kind of oily underneath the Saniderm, so I figured I'd just deal with the skin flakes versus potentially scrubbing off adhesive again for the next 3 hours like I did with my chest tattoo, because that got oily as well. Anyway, when I'm out of the shower, I will again just pat it dry with a paper towel. Afterwards, I just apply my favorite ointment. Right now, that is the Badger Tattoo Balm. I used to use Lush's Ultra Balm for a really long time. Then they discontinued it. Now it's back, but I am sticking by the better one because it's, I think, half the price for nearly the same amount of product and a very similar feel on the skin. They do have different ingredients. I think the better balm has a couple more than the Lush one. I usually try to go for like the least amount of ingredients as possible, but in this case I do prefer not spending like 22 euros for this like palm-sized thing of oil, to be honest. They do also have like a very similar feel on the skin, which is what I was after. I really like the Better Balm because it sinks into the skin super quickly and it's not sticky or gross or anything, versus with like Vaseline, which I've also used for a few of my tattoos. Every fucking thing will just get stuck to it for hours. It's disgusting. So I just apply the balm 3 or 4 times a day for the next week and a half. Like the 2-week mark is where I usually stop with my super strict aftercare routine, because that's usually how long it takes my tattoos to stop being like insanely dry and itchy. I will obviously still put ointment on them, but I'm not gonna apply and reapply 3 to 4 times a day. I usually then will just put something on it in the morning and after my shower or before I go to sleep, and that's it. It took about, I want to say 3-ish days for the majority of like those skin flakes to go away, which is pretty normal in my experience. This is now day 7, so we completed the first week of healing. Yay! And you can see it's not flaky anymore. It's a little dry because I'm about to take a shower, and at this point in healing I wash my tattoo with the same soap I use on the rest of my body. The only difference is I don't use a net sponge or like a peeling scrub on it because the skin is still very delicate and obviously I don't want to damage it. After the shower, again, I apply a thin layer of my tattoo balm, and that's pretty much my routine for the next week or so of healing. I just apply the balm 3 times a day. Obviously, if your tattoo feels super dry in that stage of healing, you can apply whatever ointment you like a little more often than like 3 or 4 times a day. But if you find this happening very frequently, you might want to think about changing tattoo ointments to something that's a little thicker or richer, I guess could be a nice word to describe it. Yeah, you might want to think about switching. I also try to keep new tattoos completely covered if I'm out in the sun for the first month or so, because you're not supposed to put sunscreen on fresh tattoos. That only belongs on healed ones, because you know it could get into a wound and be gross and be not good. I feel like I'm losing my mind. It's like 2 a.m. Yeah, so these are just random check-ins throughout the next week. This is day 10, I think. It's a little dry just after my shower, and this is it with the lotion applied, and it is looking pretty good. I didn't film an update every single day because there's usually not too much visual change from one day to the next, like within that week. Yeah, so this is day 12 or so. And this is day 14. So at this point, it's 2 full weeks healed. And this is, like I said, where I usually stop my super strict aftercare routine and just kind of apply balm as needed. I do still wait another 2 weeks with sunscreen and exfoliating just to be safe. But yeah, that's really it. That's how I take care of my tattoos. Please let me know in the comments what your favorite tattoo ointment or balm or whatever is. I'm super happy with my Badger balm, but I am always down to try out something new. So I would love to hear from you. If you enjoy these types of videos, please let me know by liking this video and maybe subscribing if you would like to see more from me. And as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!